Welcome viewers. I am Dr. Amuda from School of Management, Sastra Deemed University. I welcome to the session classification of ratios based on turnover. First we shall see the activity ratios. Activity ratios are otherwise called as turnover ratios or performance ratios. This ratio measures the firm's ability to convert the different accounts like assets, capital, liabilities into cash or sales. Higher the ratio, the more is the efficiency of the business. It indicates the briskness with which the business is carried on. These ratios are also called as velocities. Before going in depth to the turnover ratios, I shall now explain what is the operating cycle of a business concern. Cash is first invested in raw material and the raw material is converted into work in progress and work in progress into finished goods. All these finished goods are sold to the debtors and these debtors will become bills receivable, again it is realized into cash. Once again the cash is invested in raw material. So, this is the operating cycle. The time that is involved in this operating cycle is said to be the turnover period. So, when the stock is turned over, that means the stock is turned over into cash. So, this turnover time is studied under activity ratios. First one is stock turnover ratio. Stock turnover ratio will mean cost of goods sold divided by average inventory. What is this cost of goods sold? Cost of goods sold is sales minus gross profit or opening stock plus purchases plus your direct expenses minus your closing stock. Assume we have a opening stock of 1000 and we have a purchase of 1 lakh units, we will get 1 lakh 1000. So, when you have your 500 as your closing stock, we will have 500 as your goods sold. So, with your direct expenses, this is called as your COGS, that is your cost of goods sold. Now, average inventory is opening stock plus closing stock by 2. So, stock turnover ratio is equal to cost of goods sold divided by average inventory. If in a problem average inventory is not given, we can take the closing inventory as a denominator. Now, what does this ratio means? It means the number of times the inventory is turned over during a particular accounting period. How many times the stock is converted into cash? What is the stock turnover period? Stock turnover period or stock velocity expresses in terms of your days or month. Now, number of days or a month in a year divided by turnover ratio. Now, this objective of the firm is to increase the stock velocity and in turn decrease the number of days or months which remains the stock as unsold. Say now, if your stock turnover ratio is 6, this is your stock turnover ratio. We have 12 months. So, 12 months divided by 6, that means the stock is turned over 2 times in a year. Suppose if the stock turnover ratio is 2, now we have 12 months divided by 2, we will have 6 times. So, 6 times the stock is turned over. So, the lower the ratio, the higher will be the number of times it is turned over during a particular period. So, this stock turnover ratio decides about the number of times the stock is turned over into cash. Next comes the debtors turnover ratio. Debtors turnover ratio can be otherwise called as receivables turnover or debtors velocity. Now, what does this debtors means? Debtor includes the bills receivable also. So, inclusive of your debtors and bills receivable, we call it as accounts receivables. Now, debtors turnover ratio is equal to net credit sales divided by average receivables. What is this net credit sales? Net credit sales is equal to sales minus sales returns, that is your net credit sales. What is your average receivables? Opening receivables plus your closing receivables by 2. Here once again I want to pinpoint a particular fact, that is receivables here were the debtors on your bills. What does this debtors turnover signifies? It measures the number of times the receivables are rotated in a year. Rotated in a year woman, how many times it is converted into cash in a year in terms of your sales. It indicates the efficiency of credit collection, how far the organization is efficient in collecting the credit from the customers and the efficiency of your credit policy. Say assume when we give a credit, credit period for a debtor, they will give it as say 3 months. If it is 3 months credit period that is given by an organization to an debtor, if the debtor is returning in a month, he will be given 2% discount. If he is returning in a month, he is given 2% discount. If he is returning in 2 months, he will be given 1% discount. If he is returning in 3 months, there is no discount given to him. So, this is the way in which the collections can be accelerated. So, this collections can be accelerated by way of having a credit policy, good and optimum credit policy in an organization. So, this debtor turnover ratio signifies the efficiency of a credit policy in an organization. Now, the objective is to measure the liquidity of your receivables and obtaining the average period over which the receivables are uncollected. So, it tells about the period in which the debtors remain to be uncollected. What is this average collection period? Average collection period tells about in terms of days or a month, that is months or days in a year divided by your debtors turnover ratio. Now, average, it can be otherwise called as, calculated as average accounts receivable into number of days or a months in a year divided by net credit sales. As we already told, net credit sales is equal to sales minus sales returns. Higher the turnover ratio and shorter the average collection period, better is the liquidity and vice versa. So, shorter the period months, say for example, if we have 8, 8 is said to be the turnover ratio. Now, 12 by 8 will give you 1.5. So, we will get for every 1.5 months, the firm is able to collect the debt. So, the shorter the average collection period, better is said to be the liquidity. That means, the firm is able to collect the debts within 1.5 months. So, when it is able to collect within 1.5 months, it can easily invest it in the business. The next comes the creditors turnover ratio. This creditors turnover ratio can be otherwise called as accounts payable or creditors velocity. As that of your debtors velocity, we are going to calculate the creditors velocity. The same way, how the payments are made to the creditors. Creditors and bills payable are together called as accounts payable. Now, what is this creditors turnover ratio? Net credit purchases divided by your average payables. Again, what is your net credit purchases? Net credit purchases is equal to purchases minus your purchases returns. This is your net credit purchases. Now, what is this average payables? Opening payables divided by, plus closing payables divided by 2. If no opening and O is given in the problem, we can take the closing payables as your denominator. What does this creditors turnover ratio signifies? It indicates the number of times the payables rotate in a year. How many times the creditors are paid in a year. Now, the quantum of the payables depends upon the purchase policy, the quantity of purchases and supplier's credit policy. As we had a debtors credit policy, the supplier will also have a credit policy for our organization. So, how far the credit policy is given to us, whether it is a strict credit policy or a lenient credit policy. Longer the period of payables outstanding, lesser is said to be the problem of working capital. Normally, the best policy is to accelerate all your collections and to decelerate all your payments. So, you have to make use of creditors credit period given by the suppliers. So, the maximum period you are going to use it, the maximum lesser is said to be the need for working capital. What is this working capital moment? Current assets minus your current liabilities. That is the minimum capital requirements to run the day-to-day business. If the firm does not pay its creditors within the time, it will adversely affect your goodwill of the business. So, if the firm is not paying off all its creditors well in time, then it will affect the goodwill and the creditors will not extend his own credit to the organization. So, for this purpose, we must calculate a creditors turnover ratio. What is the average payment period? This average payment period is calculated based on your creditors turnover ratio. Months or days in a year divided by creditors turnover ratio. Otherwise, average accounts payable into months or days in a year divided by net credit purchases for the year. Now, higher the payment period indicate that the creditors are not paid in time. So, the higher the payment period means, say if you are going to pay once in 9 months or once in 10 months, that means he is not paid promptly, and vice versa. If the payment is made within 2 months, within 3 months, then it makes a prompt payment. Depending upon the liquidity position of the firm, the kind of payables turnover desirable can be planned. So, based on a liquidity position, we can easily decide what should be our average payment period to the creditors. Next comes the working capital ratio. What is this working capital ratio? Working capital, as we already said, it is current assets minus your current liabilities. So, this is called as a net working capital. Now, gross working capital is said to be the total of current assets. Net working capital is current assets minus your current liabilities. Now, what does this current assets mean? See to it, the current assets will mean stock, debtors, bills receivable, cash, bank, prepaid expenses, outstanding incomes. So, all these are said to be the current assets. What are the current liabilities? We will have creditors, bills payable, bank overdraft, outstanding liabilities, income received in advance. These are all the current liabilities. So, these are all the components of current liabilities, these are the components of your current assets. Now, current assets minus your current liability is equal to net working capital. What does this net working capital implies? Net working capital implies the cushion for your payment of all your current liabilities. That is, having all your current assets in your hand. What are the current assets we mean? Current assets we mean it is the asset which can be easily converted within a particular accounting period. It may be 1 year. So, these current liabilities are those liabilities which are to be paid within an accounting period, again it is 1 year. So, we must always have current assets to be more than your current liabilities. Only then your liquidity position is better in an organization. It is said to be satisfactory in an organization. So, all your current assets must cover all your liabilities. Always current assets exceed the liabilities, because you must have a positive working capital position. This working capital position is said to be the economic barometer of any organization. It tells about your liquidity position. Liquidity here woman, it is the ability of the firm to pay off all your liabilities in time. So, this working capital ratio tells about the liquidity position of a concern. Only if a liquidity position is satisfactory, your solvency position will also be satisfactory. This liquidity position deals about your short term solvency of an organization. Now, what is this working capital turnover ratio? Sales or cost of sales. Either you can take sales or cost of sales divided by net working capital. Higher sales in comparison to the working capital indicates over trading, and lower sales in comparison to working capital deals with under trading. So, when a working capital position is very low, that means this total sales is not satisfactory. A higher ratio is an indication of lower investment in working capital and more profit. So, this higher, wherever the working capital ratio is very high, that means that we will have a lower investment in working capital and we have a more profit. That means the firm is able to convert its all its raw materials, work in progress, finished goods into cash easily, and you can have a minimum of your working capital in the organization, and you can maximize your sales in the organization, resulting in the maximum profit. Next comes the fixed assets turnover ratio. This is again sales or cost of sales divided by net fixed assets. What is this net fixed assets woman? It is fixed assets minus your depreciation. This depreciation is said to be the accumulated depreciation. It is not depreciation for the year, it is said to be accumulated depreciation. It determines the efficiency of the utilization of fixed assets and profitability of a business concern. How far the fixed assets are effectively utilized. Assume that the machinery is capable of producing 5 lakh units a month, then the machinery should be fully utilized. Only then the cost involved in the machinery, that is the investment made in the machinery, is utilized to the optimum extent. So, that shows your utilization of fixed assets. If only the fixed assets is fully utilized, the cost per unit of your machinery, the machinery cost per unit will come down. Say when your machinery cost is said to be 10 lakh rupees, and if the machinery is capable of producing 1 lakh units. So, if you are going to produce 1 lakh units, it will be 10 lakhs divided by 1 lakh, you will get rupees 10 per unit. Suppose if you don't have sufficient orders and if you don't have a favorable sales in the market and you are producing only 50,000 units, then it will be 10 lakh rupees divided by 50,000, it goes to 20 rupees per unit. So, when your production is decreasing, your cost per unit, I mean the fixed cost per unit will increase. When your production increases, your fixed cost per unit will decrease, because fixed cost in total will remain constant. So, the efficient usage of our fixed assets is said to be more essential in an organization. That is why we say that the efficiency in utilization of your fixed assets, how far the fixed assets are turned over in an organization. Higher the ratio, the more is the efficiency of fixed assets. How many times you are going to use your fixed assets in the organization. So, the more the ratio, the higher is the efficiency of a business concern. Next is capital turnover ratio. Capital turnover ratio, again we can take sales or cost of sales divided by capital employed. What is this capital employed, women? It is the shareholders funds from your and your long term funds. When we mean shareholders funds, it is equity share capital plus your preference share capital plus your reserves and surplus. This reserve is said to be an accumulated reserve. This surplus is said to be the profit for the year. So, this reserves and surplus belongs to the shareholders, and then this reserves are added with your shareholders capital. So, this shows your shareholders funds. When we mean shareholders funds, it is both for equity and preference. Suppose if you are going to deduct your preference share capital, we say that it is equity shareholders funds. Now, plus your long term funds. Long term funds may be long term borrowings or your debentures. Higher the ratio indicates a higher efficiency, and lower the ratio becomes the ineffective usage of your capital. So, the capital is used in a very low extent. It shows the effectiveness of the management in the utilization of capital employed. How far the capital is used in your organization, how efficiently the capital is utilized, how it is deployed in different assets and how these assets have been fully utilized. So, this shows your capital turnover. Overall solvency ratio. Overall solvency ratio can be otherwise called as total debt ratio. Total debt divided by your total tangible assets. Total debts includes short term and your long term. It reveals the proportion of assets needed to repay your assets. Debts. What are all the debts to be paid and what are all the assets that is deployed in the organization. With the assets, we are going to pay the debts. Higher the ratio indicates a greater risk and a lower safety to the owners. This firm is called as highly geared firm, and borrowings becomes very difficult and the solvency position becomes questionable. When we include the debt into capital, it is called as the geared firm. So, when this geared firm is able to pay its debts on time, then it is said to be in a good financial condition. Suppose if the geared firm is not able to pay the debts in time, then the solvency is said to be questionable. So, this highly geared firm will always have a borrowings as difficult one, because when it is highly geared, the borrowings are said to be at a very high rate. Next comes the short term solvency ratios. First is your current ratio. What is this current ratio, woman? It is current assets divided by your current liabilities. These ratio tells about the way in which the firm is going to meet its current obligations when it is due for payment. It measures the short term solvency or liquidity of a concern. Current assets includes debtors, stock, bills receivable, bank, cash, prepaid expenses, all your outstanding incomes and your short term investments. Current liabilities includes creditors, bank overdraft, bills payable, outstanding expenses, income received in advance. Now, the standard current ratio is 2:1. That is, when you have your current assets minus divided by current liabilities, it should be 2:1. That is, current assets should be 2 and current liability must be 1. What is the significance of this current ratio? Higher the ratio does not indicate it is efficient, since it means less efficient use of your funds. It also means more dependence on long term sources of raising funds. So, if you have more of your current assets in the organization, then it is not properly utilized. Long-term funds are more expensive than your current liabilities. That is, higher ratio says that most of your current assets are financed by your long-term funds. These long-term funds are said to be more expensive in the terms of your interest payment. A ratio less than 2 indicates that inadequate current assets to meet your current liabilities. That is, when it is less than 2, current assets are not adequate enough to pay off your current liabilities. The difference between your current assets and current liabilities provides the flexibility for your payments. Next is the liquid ratio. It is the quick or acid test ratio. Liquid ratio is liquid assets divided by liquid liabilities. Sometimes it may also be calculated as liquid assets divided by current liabilities. Now, what are all the quick assets now? Current assets minus stock and prepaid expenses. The stock and prepaid expenses are deducted from your current asset, and that is said to be quick assets. How far these assets are quickly converted into cash? Quick liabilities. Current liabilities minus your bank overdraft. Now, the standard liquid ratio is 1:1. That is, your liquid assets divided by liquid liability is 1:1. And always liquid assets must be equal to your liquid liabilities. Next is your cash position ratio. This is otherwise called as super quick ratio or obsolete liquid ratio. This ratio measures the liquidity in terms of your cash and cash equivalents. Cash position ratio can be cash and bank balances and marketable securities divided by your current liabilities. Standard cash position is 0.75:1. That is, your cash and bank balances with your marketable securities must be 0.75 and your liabilities must be 1. This ratio is said to be a rigorous measure of your firm's liquidity position. See, this is the hot liquid cash in the hands of the business organization to pay off your liabilities. Next is your fixed assets ratio. This shows your long-term solvency. This ratio indicates the proportion of long-term funds invested in fixed assets. Now, we have fixed assets divided by long-term funds. Fixed assets is otherwise always taken as net fixed assets, that is fixed assets less your depreciation. This depreciation is said to be accumulated depreciation. Long-term funds women, share capital, reserves and surplus, long-term loans minus your fictitious assets. So, all your fictitious assets, namely goodwill, you have patents, you have copyrights, preliminary expenses, and all your expenses on issue of shares, issue of debentures. So, all these assets are taken as fictitious assets. This must be deducted for your long-term funds calculation. What is the significance of your fixed assets ratio? This ratio should not be more than 1. The ratio is less than 1, it indicates that proportion of your working capital has been financed by your long-term funds. That is, a part of your working capital is invested by the invested with the long-term funds. So, these long-term funds are otherwise always very expensive to invest. The ratio is more than 1, it indicates that fixed assets are purchased with the short-term funds. So, fixed assets must be purchased only with the fixed capital and working capital must be managed only with the current assets. If this is not properly managed, then it shows, it will be reflected in your fixed assets ratio. Now, the standard ratio is 0.67:1. Next comes the long-term solvency, that is your debt equity ratio. External equities divided by internal equities. What is your external equities? It refers to the all outsiders liabilities. Internal equities refers to the shareholders funds or tangible net worth. What is this net worth? It can be otherwise called as fixed capital or your fixed assets plus your net working capital, that is your net worth. So, say in case what is this working capital women, that is current assets minus your current liabilities. So, this is said to be the tangible net worth of an organization. The standard ratio is said to be 1:1. Next is the proprietary ratio. Proprietary ratio is again another form of long-term solvency. It is a proportion of shareholders funds in total tangible assets. Tangible assets women, the assets which are said to be touched and seen, all your physical assets are said to be tangible assets like plant and machinery, land and building, stock, and we have the loose tools, fixtures, furnitures, etc. It helps the creditors to assess the financial soundness of a firm. Shareholders funds divided by total tangible assets. What is the total shareholders funds invested in total tangible assets? Say when you take a balance sheet, we have liabilities and capital and we have the assets. What is your balance sheet equation? L plus C is equal to A. Now, what is this assets? That is said to be the total deployment, that is all your applications of your money. So, this is said to be the sources of your money. This is said to be capital is said to be the owned source and liability is said to be the borrowed source. Now, this proprietary ratio shows what is the ratio of this capital in your fixed assets. What is how the shareholders funds are utilized in your tangible assets. A higher ratio indicates the safety to the creditors and a lower ratio shows a greater risk. That means a higher ratio says that more of your owned funds are invested in your assets. A ratio below 5.5 is alarming for the creditors as it is more of your creditors funds and less of your shareholders funds. So, shareholders funds are decreased here and your creditors funds are increased in the deployment of your funds in the total assets. Next is your capital gearing ratio. How far the capital is geared in an organization. This is called as capitalization or leverage ratio. It is used to analyze the capital structure of the company. What is this capital structure we mean? Capital structure we mean, it shows the combination of your liabilities, that is your borrowed funds and your owned funds. How far the borrowed funds and your owned funds are invested, that shows your capital structure. Long term loans plus debentures plus your preference share capital divided by your equity shareholders funds. This ratio indicates the proportion of owners funds and non-owners funds, namely the leverage. Leverage woman inclusion of debt into capital, that is your leverage. This is said to be leverage. We have an advantage of including debt into the capital. First advantage is no dilution of control. No dilution of control here. That is when your debt is included in the capital, we have to pay a fixed interest charges and these creditors will not enter into your management. The second one is there is an increase in your EPS, earnings per your share. So, for this purpose we are going to include the debt into the capital, that is said to be the leverage. Say when the ratio is very high, the capital gearing is said to be very high and the ratio is low and the capital gearing is said to be low. High gearing shows your undercapitalization, low gearing shows your overcapitalization. When we say overcapitalization, it is said to be a watered capital, that is we cannot trace the funds. Normally we say any manager should be efficient enough to trace the money that has been invested in the business. That is the traceability of your funds in the business. If the funds cannot be traced in the business, that is we call it as traceability of funds in the business. When the funds cannot be traced, we call it as overcapitalization. Undercapitalization with the minimum of your capital, you are going to earn a maximum profit. So, undercapitalization is said to be sitting in a frozen box, overcapitalization is sitting in a hot oven. So, these two extremes are not proper. So, we must have an optimum capitalization, that is called as fair capitalization. So, proper combination of your capital and your long term loans or long term borrowings should be there for your fair capitalization. Welcome viewers, I am Dr. R. Amuda from School of Management, Sastra Deemed University. I welcome to the session ratio analysis. Let us now see small problems and ratio analysis. We shall go to the problem number 1. S Limited submit the following data regarding sales and cost. We have sales 1 lakh rupees, sales returns 20,000, cost of sales 50,000. Find out the gross profit ratio. Now, when we go for the gross profit ratio, you have to take only the net sales. So, sales minus sales returns will give you the net sales. Then we will have the cost of sales and sales. So, the difference between sales and cost of sales is GP ratio, GP. See to it, net sales is 1 lakh minus 20,000, we have 80,000 rupees. Gross profit is net sales minus your cost of sales, that is 30,000 rupees. Now gross profit ratio is GP divided by net sales into 100, that is 30,000 divided by 80,000 into 100, that is 37.5%. That is for every 100 rupees we have 37.5% of GP. Next we shall pass on to the problem number 2. Vasant Limited submit the following details for the year ending 31st March 2007. Calculate net profit ratio. We have sales 2 lakh rupees, gross profit 60,000, administration, selling and distribution expenses 25,000, other expenses 10,000, income from investments 15,000, loss on sale of machine it is 5,000 rupees. Now net profit is arrived after taking into account non-trading incomes and expenses. So whenever any non-trading incomes are earned, it should be added with the profit, and non-trading expenses must be deducted from the profit. See to it, net profit is equal to gross profit minus your operating expenses. Operating expenses ke vaman, the expenses that are incurred during the course of your business for the purchase and sale of your goods and services. Then add your non-operating incomes. Non-operating incomes are those incomes which are not related to your business. Say for example, interest received on your own investments outside the business, or any other profit on sale of your machine or any asset, etc. Non-operating expenses woman, any expenses which are not related with your own business, that is loss on sale of machinery, loss on sale of a building, etc. Now 60,000 minus 25,000 and 10,000 is said to be the operating expenses. This is your non-operating income, this is your non-operating expense. So we get a net amount of 35,000. Net profit ratio is net profit divided by net sales into 100. 35,000 is your net profit. After making all the adjustments, we have a net sales of 2 lakhs into 100, we have 17.5% as your net profit ratio. So for every 100 rupees, you are going to earn 17.5 as net profit. Now we shall pass on to the problem number 3. Ascertain operating profit ratio from the following details. This is net profit after tax 80,000 rupees, profit on sale of buildings it is 30,000, loss on sale of land 20,000, preliminary expenses written off 10,000, provision for tax 40,000, interest on debentures that is paid is 20,000 rupees, we have a net sales of 7 lakh rupees. So to ascertain your operating profit, we have to follow the formula net profit minus your operating income, add your non-operating expenses. I will tell you why we are adding up your non-operating expenses. It is already deducted in your profit and loss account, we are adding back it to know about your exact profit. Non-operating incomes is already added in your profit, now it is deducted to ascertain your exact operating profit. So net profit minus operating income plus your non-operating expenses. We have 80,000 minus 30,000, then it is 20,000 plus 10,000 plus 20,000 plus 40,000. See to it, we have profit on sale of buildings it is 30,000, 30,000 is deducted, and we have loss on sale of land 20,000, this 20,000 is added back. Then we have 10,000 as preliminary expenses written off, this is a non-cash item. So it is again this is added back here, and we have 20,000 as interest on debentures paid, again it is a non-operating expense, it is added back. See to it, it is added. Then we have a 40,000 provision for tax, again it is a non-cash item, it is added back. So we have 1,40,000 as operating profit. Net sales it is given as 7 lakh rupees. So 1,40,000 by 7 lakh into 100, we have 20%. Operating profit is 20%. That is for every 100 rupees of your sales, we have 20% as operating profit. What does this operating profit actually mean? Actually, operating profit is the profit earned during your operations of the business. Operations here we clearly mentioned that any transaction related with the sale and purchase of your goods and services. Then we shall pass on to the next problem. Sales is rupees 8 crores, cost of goods sold is 4 crores, then selling and administrative expenses is 2 crores. Compute gross profit ratio and operating ratio. Here operating ratio mean it is not operating profit ratio, it is operating ratio. Operating ratio mean operating expenses ratio. What are all the operating expenses for a business? It is cost of goods sold and your other administration, selling and distribution expenses. Now, this GP ratios, as we already know, it is GP divided by net sales. What is your GP? Sales minus cost of goods sold is GP. Now, we take GP as sales minus your cost of goods sold. Now, what is your operating ratio? Operating is said to be cost of goods sold plus your selling and administration expenses. This is the way in which you are going to calculate. See to it, cost of goods sold divided by sales, 4 by 8 into 100, it is 50%. Operating ratio is cost of goods sold plus operating expenses divided by net sales. Then we have 75% as operating ratio. Problem number 5. Find out operating ratio and operating profit ratio. We have cost of goods sold as 1,80,000, other operating expenses 30,000 and net sales as 3 lakhs. See to it, operating ratio is cost of goods sold plus operating expenses divided by net sales as we saw it in the previous problem. It is 70%. Operating profit is operating profit divided by net sales. What is your operating profit? GP minus your operating expenses. This is another formula here. This is very important. GP minus your operating expenses. We have 90,000 rupees, then 90,000 divided by your net sales, that is 3 lakh rupees into 100. See, net sales is 3 lakh rupees. Must have another 0 here. Now, calculation of your earning per share. I shall see how the earning per share is calculated. We will take EBIT, earning before interest and tax. That is the profit earned before paying off your interest on long term borrowings and paying off your tax. Then less your interest on long term borrowings, you will get interest after tax but before, after interest but before tax, PABT. Profit, this is after interest, profit after interest but before tax. Less tax we have, then it is profit after tax. Then we have less preference dividend, then amount available to the equity shareholders. So, after deducting your preference dividend, that is the amount available for your equity shareholders. What is the amount actually available to the equity shareholders divided by your number of shares outstanding is said to be the earnings per share. Earnings per share is how much your share earns in the company. Calculate your earnings per share from the following. Net profit after tax is 2 lakh rupees, 10% preference share capital, then equity share capital is 10 lakh rupees. This EPS applies only to the earnings equity shares alone. Now, we have net profit after tax, then deduct your preference dividend. What is your preference dividend? Here preference dividend will be 10% on 4 lakh rupees. That will be 40,000 rupees. So, now net profit after tax is 2 lakh rupees minus your preference dividend, you will get your amount available to your equity shareholders. Now, equity share capital is 10 lakh rupees, number of shares available will be 10 lakhs divided by 100 rupees. So, it will be 10,000 shares. Now, what is available to the equity shareholders divided by the number of equity shares will be the earnings per share. See to it, net profit is 2 lakh rupees as we already told, 40,000 is your preference dividend, this is your preference dividend. Preference dividend paid to the preference shareholders, then this is said to be the amount available to the equity shareholders, 1,60,000 rupees. Now, what is your equity shares outstanding? As we already said, 10,000 shares is outstanding. Now, 1,60,000 is the amount available to the equity shareholders, 10,000 is the equity shares available, then it is 16 rupees per share. So, every share earns rupees 60. Now, next is calculate earnings per share from the following data. Net profit before tax is 1 lakh rupees, taxation is 50% of your net profit, 10% of your preference share capital, that is 10 rupees each is there, then equity share capital 1 lakh rupees. As we already said, profit before tax is said to be 1 lakh, then minus your tax, you put your tax 50%, that is your 50,000. So, you will get 50,000 minus your preference dividend, that is 10% on 1 lakh rupees. 10% on 1 lakh rupees will be 10,000. So, 40,000 will be the amount available. Now, what is your number of equity shares outstanding? 1 lakh rupees divided by 10, that will be 10,000 rupees. So, for 10,000 shares, now 40,000 and divided by 10,000 will be 4 per share. See to it. We have, as we already said, profit before tax is 1 lakh rupees, 50% is said to be the tax amount, then this is profit after tax, then this is your preference dividend is said to be 10,000 rupees. Now, this is said to be amount available to the equity shareholders 40,000 rupees, number of equity shares is 10,000 shares, this is your face value, this is your amount, total amount. Then we have earnings per share is 40,000 rupees divided by 10,000 shares. This is rupees 40,000, this is number of shares. So, it is rupees 4 per share. Next is net profit before interest and tax, rupees 50,000, 10% debentures payable in 10 years equal installments, that is 1 lakh rupees, tax rate is 50%, calculate the debt service coverage ratio. Debt service coverage ratio means how many times the company is able to cover its own interest on debentures, that is your fact. See to it, debt service coverage ratio is EBIT divided by your interest charge. EBIT is 50,000 rupees, interest is 10% on your 1 lakh, so this is 5 times. That means that your company is able to cover the interest 5 times with the existing profit. A company has a capital of 10 lakh rupees, its turnover is 3 times the capital and margin of sales is 6%. What is the ROI, return on investment? See, return on investment is EBIT divided by your capital employed. Now, sales is 3 times of your capital, 3 times of your capital. So, it is into 3, 30 lakh rupees, then margin of sales is 6%, so 1 lakh 80,000 rupees. Now, 1 lakh 80,000 divided by 10 lakh rupees, you will get 18%. This is your return on investment. What is the actual profit on your own investment? Ascertain return on shareholders funds from the following data. Shareholders funds given, shareholders funds is, we have equity share capital plus your preference share capital, add your reserves and surplus. This is your shareholders funds. So, when you specifically say that it is equity shareholders funds, we should not include preference shareholders. Now, equity share capital is that, preference share capital, reserves, this is profit after tax. So, when we say shareholders funds, we take into account equity share capital, preference share capital and your reserves. See to it, PAT divided by your shareholders funds into 100. So, profit after tax divided by your preference share capital, equity share capital and reserves. So, it is 50%, that is 50% is said to be the total profit you are going to earn on your total capital employed. Then calculate current ratio from the following information. Current ratio is equal to current assets divided by current liabilities. Whenever we mean current assets, we mean stock, debtors, bills receivable, cash, bank and we have prepaid expenses and your outstanding incomes. This is your current assets. When we say current liabilities, it is bank overdraft, then we have creditors, bills payable and any other outstanding expenses and we have income received in advance. This is your current liabilities. So, current asset minus your current liabilities. So, this current asset should always be more than your current liabilities. Current asset shows your liquidity position of your business. Now, what are all the current assets we are going to decide here? So, this is your current asset, debtors is your current asset, cash balance is current asset, bills receivable is current asset, prepaid expenses. This is goodwill is said to be fictitious asset, land and building is said to be a fixed asset. Sundry creditors is said to be current liability, bills payable is current liability, taxes payable is current liability, outstanding expenses current liability, bank owed is said to be current liability. This debenture is said to be a fixed liability. This is a fixed liability, this is your fixed asset, this is your fictitious asset. So, these are all the assets classification. With this we are going to calculate the current ratio. See to it, current assets divided by current liabilities. 60,000 plus 70 plus 20 plus 30 plus 10, you will get 1,90,000 as your current assets. Then current liability is 85,000. We have a current ratio of 2.24. That means current asset is said to be 2.24, current liability is said to be 1. For every one part of current liability, you will get 2.24 of your current assets. Calculate quick ratio from your information. What is your quick ratio? Quick ratio is said to be quick assets divided by quick liabilities. What is your quick assets? Current assets minus your stock and prepaid expenses. Stock and prepaid expenses. What is your quick liability? Current liability minus your bank overdraft. This is your quick liabilities. Now we will see what are all the quick assets and quick liabilities. Bank loan will not come under quick liability. Sundry creditors is quick liability, bills payable is quick liability, creditors for the expenses is quick liability. This is your fixed liability, this is your fixed asset. Then stock and trade is your quick, that is your current assets. So it will not be included in your quick assets. Sundry debtors is your quick assets. Then you will get your cash in hand as quick assets, cash at bank as quick assets. Then we will have your short term investments as quick assets, then prepaid insurance as your quick assets. See to it, quick assets divided by current liabilities. Sometimes if you are not going to take quick liabilities, we also take the current liabilities also. So this can be either way, you can take quick liabilities or your current liabilities. Here they have taken current liabilities. So 3,45,000 is your quick assets, current liabilities is 1,80,000, so a quick ratio is 1.96. That is your quick asset is 1.916, your quick liability is 1. So for every one quick liability, you will get 1.96. Next is absolute quick liquid ratio from the following information. We have goodwill, plant and machinery, trade investments, marketable securities, bills receivable, cash in hand, cash at bank, inventories, bank overdraft, sundry creditors, bills payable, outstanding expenses. We will see what is your absolute liquid ratio. Absolute liquid assets divided by current liabilities. What is your absolute liquid assets? That is marketable securities plus cash in hand and cash at bank. See to it, we will take only the marketable securities and we have the cash in hand and your cash in hand. That is your cash in hand and cash at bank. This is your absolute liquid assets, and we have the current liabilities as bank OD, sundry creditors, bills payable, outstanding expenses. See to it, we have bank OD, sundry creditors, bills payable and outstanding expenses. So absolute liquid ratio is 0.9. The ratio is quite satisfactory because it is much higher than the rule of thumb as 0.5. That is your absolute liquid assets are more than absolute liquid liabilities. Then following is a balance sheet of New India Limited for the year ending 31st December 2009. On the liability side, we have preference share capital, equity share capital, 8% debentures, long term loan, bills payable, sundry creditors, bank OD, outstanding expenses. We have goodwill as a fictitious asset, land and building as fixed asset, plant as fixed asset, furniture and fixture as your current assets, bills receivable, then sundry debtors, bank balance, short term investments, prepaid expenses, stock. So we have a total of 1965 on both the sides. Now we have to calculate current ratio, asset test ratio, absolute liquid ratio, and comment on your ratios calculated. First we shall pass on to the current ratio. As usual, you know, current assets divided by current liabilities. So all your current assets are added, as we already see. What are all the current assets here? We have bills receivable, sundry debtors, bank balance, investments, prepaid expenses and stock. Then current liabilities, we have current liabilities are bills payable, sundry creditors, bank OD, outstanding expenses. So the current ratio is 1.61. This is said to be satisfactory. Asset test ratio is liquid assets divided by current liabilities. Liquid assets, as we already said, current assets minus your stock and prepaid expenses. So this is 2,30,000 liquid assets, and we have current liabilities as 1,65,000. Asset test ratio is 1.39. This is otherwise called as liquid ratio. Acid test ratio is already or otherwise called as quick ratio or liquid ratio. Absolute liquid ratio, absolute liquid assets plus your absolute liquid assets divided by current liabilities. Absolute liquid assets, as I already told, it is marketable securities, cash in hand and cash at bank. We have the current liabilities as we already calculated. So, absolute liquid ratio is 0.42. Now, current ratio of the company is not satisfactory because 1.61 is much less than the standard of 2:1. Always current assets must be 2 and current liabilities must be 1. Asset test ratio on the other hand is more than the normal standard 1.1. Then liquid ratio is quite sufficient to provide to cover the current liabilities. The more rigorous ratio, that is absolute liquid ratio, is slightly low because 0.42, it is less than 0.5. In all, the company needs to improve your short term financial position. This is said to be the exact financial status of a corporation. From the all information is following information is given to you. Current ratio is 2.5, working capital is 90,000. Find out your current assets and current liabilities. Now, what is your working capital? We have gross working capital as your current assets, net working capital as your current assets minus your current liabilities. Now, what is your current ratio? That is current assets divided by current liabilities. Now, current ratio is 2.5. Now, current asset is 2.5, current liability is 1. What is your net working capital now? 2.5 minus 1, that is 1.5. This 1.5 is equal to 90,000. This is your working capital. So, what is your current assets? If 90,000 is said to be 1.5, what is 2.5? Then what is your current liability? If 90,000 is said to be 1.5, what is it? 1. That is your current liability. See to it, current assets minus your current liabilities, 2.5 is to 1. So, this will be 1.5. So, 60,000 is said to be the working capital. Now, current liability is 60,000. One part is 60,000 into 2.5 parts, it is said to be 1,50,000. You can also verify like this. Now, current assets minus your current liability, that is 1,50,000 divided by 60,000, you will get it 90,000. You can also cross verify this. Now, calculate current ratio from the following. Ignore your long term investments. Then we have cash, then short term investments we have debtors, inventories. Current liabilities is 2 lakhs. Now, we can calculate your current ratio as usual, current assets divided by current liabilities. It is 2 times. 2 times your, current asset is 2 times of your current liabilities. Calculate liquid ratio from the data given below. We have current assets, inventories, prepaid expenses, then your current liabilities. As usual, we say quick assets divided by current liabilities. Quick assets women, current assets minus your stock. So, 2,50,000 minus your stock and your prepaid expenses. So, it is 2.5 times. Liquid ratio is 2.5. Then if inventory turnover ratio is 5 times, GP ratio is 20% and sales is said to be 10 lakhs, find out your average stock. Now, we are going to calculate it. What is your GP ratio? 20%. So, calculate your GP, that is 20% on your sales, that is your 10 lakh rupees, it will be 1 by 5. So, it will be 2 lakh rupees. This is your GP. Find out your cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is 10 lakh rupees minus your 2 lakhs, that will be 8 lakh rupees. This is your cost of goods sold. Now, inventory turnover is cost of goods sold divided by average stock. See to it, cost of goods sold is 8 lakhs, then cost of goods sold divided by your average stock, that is 5 rupees. Sorry, the average, ratio is 5. So, we have average stock of 1,60,000. Now, average stock of a firm is 1 lakh rupees and its opening stock is 10,000 less than the opening stock. Closing stock calculates its opening and closing stock. What is your average stock now? Opening stock plus your closing stock divided by 2. So, this average stock is now 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh rupees is here. Opening stock is 10,000 less than the closing stock. So, x minus 10,000 plus x divided by 2. So, you will get your opening stock and your closing stock. See to it, average stock is 1 lakh rupees, opening stock is less than your closing stock, that is 10,000 less than your closing stock. Now, average stock is opening plus closing by 2. Now, x minus 10,000 plus x by 2. So, x is said to be 105,000, that is your closing stock, minus your 10,000, 95,000 is said to be your opening stock. Current ratio is 2.5, working capital is 60,000, calculate the current assets and current liabilities. As we already saw, that is current asset is 2.5, current liability is 1. Now, working capital is 60,000 rupees. So, 2.5 minus your 1.5 is 60,000. What is your current assets now? 60,000 divided by 1.5 into 2.5. Current liability is 60,000 divided by 1.5 into 1. See to it. Current assets divided by current liabilities is your current ratio. Then working capital is 1.5. If 1.5 is 60,000, what is your current assets? So, 60,000 divided by 1.5 into 2.5, that is 1 lakh rupees. Current liability is 60,000 divided by 1.5 into 1, that is 40,000. You can also verify here, current working capital is 1 lakh minus your 40,000, that is your 60,000. You will get your 60,000 here. So, this is the way in which you have to calculate all your ratios. This is a preliminary background wherein you can understand what is the current ratio, quick ratio, quick ratio or as it is ratio or your absolute liquid ratio, and we have the operating ratio, operating profit ratio, how to calculate your EPS. The next session we shall see the other ratios. Thank you.